everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hospitality MD. My name's Kyle, and I'm here with Rupesh Patel. Rupesh is a hotel owner and investor. He is a hotel consultant and as well as just a general hospitality professional. This guy is everything hotels, and he also loves pizza. So we're happy to welcome Rupesh to the show today, and see where his journey began in hospitality. So Rupesh, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us and talk about our favorite subject together.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on, and I'm super excited to kind of share my story. And do I look at the camera or do I look at you?
I'm let's just say I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you right now.
Okay.
So so I think that should work.
Am I looking at you?
No, you look great, man. You look great.
Thank you, man.
Um,
I know we've been connected on LinkedIn for quite some time now, and I see what you guys are doing, and you guys are doing a great job with your show and some of the stuff that you guys are doing as far as your posts. So thanks for having me on.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So uh, I just want to kind of go back to the very, very beginning, because obviously right now we're looking at Rupesh, the owner, the operator, the consultant, the hospitality professional. But tell me about Rupesh Patel, like kind of leading up to this point, like as a kid, like what was your first instance of like feeling hospitality and kind of like um, and being touched by that and recognizing that it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ever since I was young, we've had hospitality in in our blood, basically. Um, I'm Indian, so my heritage is Indian. My parents are from India, and with the Indian culture, it's very hospitable. Like when you go to someone's house, you're walking to their house, they're offering you food, they're welcoming you into their house. They're asking if you want to stay over. So it was part of our blood as far as I say, just in Indian people in general, we're hospitable, right? We love this. We will feed you even if you just had lunch, right? I grew up in that with that kind of mentality, and with that whole culture. So this kind of made it easy for our family to kind of transition from I grew up in Houston, Texas, right? And there was 22 people living in one house, right? My parents and my aunt and uncles moved to America. And they didn't have anything like all the other stories you hear of immigrants coming to America, and they had to live in a house. We lived in an apartment for a while. We shared, I think it was like 2 or 3 apartments where we all kind of lived together, and we would walk up and down, and have dinner at
Nice.
someone's house and lunch at someone's house, and so we kind of grew up with a big family. So almost over 20, I think it was like 21 or 22 people in a house, like a small, I think it was like less than 1,500 square feet or less than, it was really small, right? So it's in our blood, right? And my parents and my family started an Indian grocery business. So they provided Indian groceries to this community that was growing in Houston, Texas, right? And then in 1989, and by the way, I sucked at school. I just told this story to somebody over the weekend. I said, listen, I had bad grades growing up, so I didn't really see myself doing anything special, right? I just tried hard. So like even a simple thing of being hospitable, as far as I can remember, is when there was a competition in second grade to sell candy bars, right? You have neighbors and you have these kids that run around the neighborhood selling world's best chocolate. You ever had one of those?
World's finest, I believe.
World's finest, world's finest chocolate. And I was like, you know what? The first place gets a TV, the second place gets like a tent, and third place gets like something else. And I was like, oh my God, a TV. And this is back in the 80s when nobody had a TV, right? Especially a kid in his bedroom. And forget cable. We were just like using the antenna to kind of, catch like 2 or 3 channels, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to win this thing. And so me and my friend Matthias were like, you know what? We're gonna go into competition. We're gonna kill the entire second grade. Actually, it was a school-wide event. It was like all of elementary school that you sold candy. Well, I think it went on for a couple weeks, and I started selling some. I'd go around the neighborhood, sell candy to my neighbors, and then I started like expanding out of my like street into like other neighborhoods. And I remember this one time, and I think I was up to like 500 or 600 candy bars at this time. It was raining, it was cold, and I was soaking wet. Think about like a 7 year, I think it was like 7 or 8 or second grade, whatever. I think I was like
Yeah.
8 years old. And I was soaking wet and had a bag, like a grocery bag full of candy bars. And I was just, no, it was a box and I had it covered in it so it wouldn't get wet. And the lady yelled at me. I was like, do you want to buy? I knocked on her door soaking wet. And she was like, do you want to buy candy? And she was like, no, you better get home before you get sick. And I was like, I'm not going home. I'm going to win this competition. I need to win that TV. Well, it was a long story. We sold a bunch of candy, and no, I did not get first place because my friend Matthias, he gave his candy bars to his mom so she could sell them at work, and she worked at a big company, and he
Damn,
probably sold 1,000 candy bars where I was like struggling to sell like I think 600 or 700. Um, but
that's cheating.
huh?
That's cheating.
It is, and I felt so bad, but this is life, right? You can't have it your way all the time, and so I kind of learned like, hey, if you want to sell, you got to be nice to people, and you got to kind of sell yourself, and you got to keep going, right? And that's what I've kind of done all these years. So we sold our family business in '89, and my dad bought a motel in South Florida, and we knew nothing about hotels and motels. Our friends had one, so we bought one, and I took the money that we had and from our business and kind of converted to a hotel. We lived on property for a long time. My parents just sold their property 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It was a
Really, the same motel that they bought all those years ago, they
89, like
still had.
I think it was 1989 and 88, 89. And yeah, man, they just sold it recently. And we lived on property. We did laundry. We had like one employee that was like a housekeeper, but we did everything else. So we stripped rooms, we rented rooms, we did laundry, I swept the parking lot, like swept it with like a little broom. And we didn't have blowers and all that stuff back in the day, right? But this is where you cut your teeth into like really grinding and hustling. So that's kind of where I got my background. And since then, we've been fortunate enough to kind of go into some more family business avenues and kind of grow this little thing that we have this one property to a few, and we bought and sold a few, and here I am just sharing my life and story right now. I'm just happy where we've converted this one property, these couple properties into award-winning properties now, and it's just about hustling, right? When I was a kid, I hustled, and I'm still doing it. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I keep hustling, right? Even though people might have more hotels than me, hold on, take this off, or have whatever, I'm happy for them, right? And I'm not looking to have like a million hotels or anything like that. I just want to share my experiences, and that's what I'm kind of doing right now.
So a couple things I want to address with what you just said. Number one, like I want to focus in on this little hotel that you were working at, this little motel. So like I'm okay, so you were probably what, 10, 11,
I
12
was,
years
I
old
think
at
I was
the
11
time.
years old. Yeah.
Okay, so most 11-year-olds aren't going to want to be going around, cleaning people's toilets and stripping rooms and sweeping the parking lot. Like you said, you were hustling, you were grinding on like almost manual labor as like a child, basically.
Child labor. Yeah.
And and then here you are, fast forward, and you're still doing hotels. Like, how did you not just say, I never want to see another bed, I never want to see another guest, I never want to see another laundry machine? Like, you know what I mean? How did you get overcome that at a young age and be able to see the value in what you were doing? Like, where did you get your passion from as far as hotels? How do you keep going?
So I think it's more than just hotels. I think it's just a drive and a zest for life, I guess. And I have that like every day. Like like if you follow me on Instagram or follow me on my other social channels, like I do this thing every single day. Like I will go dig a ditch, and I did this year with our maintenance team, right? I will go do the things that people don't want to do, right? Just to be successful. And like I said, I don't want $1 billion or anything. I just want to be happy, and so I just keep going, right? It's that mentality from when I was a kid that woke up at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. I still do that now. And like seriously, when I was a kid, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, like young kids do. But I've continued that like hustle and just like that zest for life, right? I want to have fun. That's what I want to do. I want to have fun and enjoy what I do. So that's what I continue doing.
That's very admirable, considering it's like I said, I don't think a lot of people would have even ended up associated with a hotel or anything like that beyond that initial working period.
Oh, it sucked.
Um,
It sucked. It sucked growing up. It sucked. Like you have to do laundry while your friends are like at like a mall hanging out, and you had to like. I remember like this one time, our friend was like, "Hey, you want to come to our come over? We're going to the mall. We're gonna all hang out." Because back in the '80s, malls were the thing where you hung out and you got in trouble, right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
or nowadays it's all everyone's on their phone, right? But yeah, I would be like, no, I can't come because I got to do this laundry and I got to do this. I have all these other things we need to do, right? But that's where I kind of learned like just got to keep going and you got to make the best of it, right?
And as far as like the hospitality aspect of what you were doing at that time, like what was your exposure like with guests and stuff like that? Because I mean, you know, I started out in hotels when I was young, like 17, and I thought it was a challenge for me and also like immense growth that like as a 17-year-old, I was expected to present myself in a non-17-year-old manner to 50-year-old guests who are coming, business travelers, things of that nature, families. But you're 11 years old and you're put in front of the guests. Tell me about that experience. How did it grow you? How did it mature you? Or just the result of that?
Yeah, when you're 11, you don't really care. You don't really have a mindset of like, oh, these people are judging me, and I can't do this job because I'm much younger than these guys that your guest, right? They're probably 21 or 50 years old. But I think when you're young, you don't have that mentality of, oh yeah, these guys are judging me, or I shouldn't be here, right? Whereas an adult, you kind of put those stories into your head. I never had that, so I just kept going, right? We just kept it going, like we didn't care. We rented it. We had a motel. It was like an exterior motel, right? So we just rented rooms, and you said, hey, it was a lot mostly local business. So, uh, hey, welcome, and how can I help you, and what do you need, and that was it. And so I wasn't scared.
Did you like even at that time the interactions with the people? Was that something that you valued as a young person?
Yeah,
And
I
the
would get
reason
it.
I
Yeah,
asked, go ahead.
yeah. I mean, that's a valid question because I would get excited. My mom used to tell me like I would put a tie when it was time for me to work the front desk. I would actually put a tie on, pretending like I worked at a full service hotel, and my mom actually has pictures of that. It's so funny that you say that, but it was like
I
that
okay, right
experience
now
of
I'm asking for these pictures, man. We gotta see them. We gotta see them.
I know. I'm gonna have to get them for you because it was funny. Like I would put a tie on, and this is my dad's tie. I didn't own a tie, right? Um, but yeah, it was just cool to like have a different experience than growing up in a, I would say like a normal childhood. We saw everything.
Yeah, definitely a little abnormal as far as I don't think I've met anybody who lived in a hotel growing up and worked and everything like that. So, um, and I guess ultimately now, I mean, you have smart guests, and uh, kind of your hospitality solutions for it seems like you've really cracked the code, especially in like a select service environment, for being able to increase like GSS and SALT scores and kind of increase your presence and and everything online with marketing and everything like that. How did smart guests come to be? Like what's the story behind that one?
So that this is like my passion project that I've been working on for the last since 2013, right? Like my side hustle that everyone should have a side hustle, right? This is my side hustle that I learned I should have, right? Most people just work and then they just work and they don't have this other passion that that kind of keeps them going because sometimes if you're working the front desk or you're the general manager, you have this thing that you're passionate about your job, but then they also need this other hobby, right? And that's what I kind of did. Well, I turned this problem into a business, which I never expected it to be a business. So here's the story. In 2008, when the economy went down, I just spent a ton of money renovating a property of mine, right? I was like, oh, I sold this property and now we have this money. I'm going to put it back into this property. And guess what? We opened up February 7th, or was it January 17th, 2008. And that summer, a few months later, the economy went down. And I'm like, crap, we're gonna lose a lot of money. And next couple of years, yeah, we did lose money. We had friends that lost their businesses, lost their hotels. You probably heard of stories of friends and family members losing their jobs and just losing,
Yeah.
everything, basically their houses, right? And during that time, uh, or prior to that, I would hear people saying, if you have great customer service, you'll kind of win the game as far as hospitality because a lot of people are looking for that extra touch point. They're looking to feel good when you're walking to a hotel, right? Or when you stay at a hotel. And I was like, you know what? I never believed in that. I just believed in how much money do we make and that was it, right? And so I had to really change my focus on, instead of just thinking of how much money we made, but how many people were actually happy, right? And that's where smart guests came in. I started trying all these different things. I started reading uh, online. I used to watch videos, and I would go through some of these training sessions for hospitality, and they would always come back to customer service, right? And even at that time, now this is like 2006, 7, 8. Social media was coming up. Facebook was coming up, and I started seeing like people were talking about businesses online. And I said, hey, listen, we need to like make sure that our properties that we spent this money on continue growing and getting good feedback, and especially online. And so I started tinkering with these little tools and little things that would kind of impress the guests, and simple thing, air freshener. Like when you go to a car wash, you get an air freshener, right? They ask, what kind of air freshener do you want in your car? And I said, well, how can I take this air freshener and attach some card that says, give us a review? And so I tried like 100 things. And I think out of the 100, now we have like 55 really good products that kind of help hotels improve their customer service scores. Well, I would go to these like regional meetings. Like if a brand had a regional meeting, I would go and I would share my story, and they'd be like, well, how are you have an older property that's 40 years old. How are you number one in your market? Or how are you like top ranked within reviews, right? And I would say this one thing, right? Or these few things. And that's kind of how Smart Guest grew. Didn't have a website. I was just like, yeah, this is what I'm using, best practices, whatever. And here you can use it too, right? Here's some ideas. Well, I started getting a bunch of calls, and I started getting onto Photoshop and designing people's business cards and such. And I'm like, I'm not a designer. I'm a hotel guy that's just trying to help people out, right? Um, and this is like, I think it was like 12, 13, 2012, 2013. And yeah, man, it's just been blowing up since then. Now we have over 4,200 hotels now nationwide that we support, and still, it's my side hustle, just a website that kind of helps hotels improve their service scores, operations, really get good reviews, and then just build a team. And simple things like when you walk into a hotel, how do you properly get recognized, right? You can give them a water bottle that every other hotel gives them, but can you give them a water bottle with their name on it, right? And so I started creating these templates and designing them. And I would say, hey, listen, all you have to do is open this PDF and type their guest name in and print it and wrap it around a candy bar or a water bottle. And this is how you improve your customer service, right? That's smart guest, basically.
I think like you touched on something really awesome, like the fact that regardless of like the financial climate or whatever, whatever's going on, basically service always wins.
Yeah.
And have you seen that, like the tangible results of good service and genuine hospitality on your businesses over the years? Like,
Absolutely.
have you seen it where people are losing and you're winning because of your service at your properties?
Yes, I mean, you see it every single day. I mean, if you don't have a good online presence as far as great reviews, good internal brand scores, you see it. You see people making business decisions or booking decisions based on your online presence, right? And that all goes back to customer service. Like, how are you treating the guests? How are you impressing them? How are you making sure that they leave happy, right? And that all has to do with the first part, which is customer service and making our guests feel warm and welcome, right? And that's what I believe in. That's like the basics of hotels. Like you have to have like the basics as far as the standards. But when it comes to customer service, you should go above and beyond. And that's what I always recommend. And this is what I teach and consult with other hotels nationwide. Like go above and beyond, and you'll beat your competition just by doing that one extra step or those two extra things, right?
I think kind of it comes back time and time again to like basically before I ever even got a job at a hotel, I started watching Hotel Impossible, Anthony Melchiori, right? Like first day, and I'm like, this guy is awesome. And he said, the formula is clean rooms and friendly service. That's it. That's how you win. And like I didn't truly like really, I guess, understand that until I really started working in hotels, and then talking with people like you as well who've seen results in that same thing. It's like it baffles me that other hoteliers aren't getting it. Like, how do you not provide clean rooms and friendly service. Like that is the basic fundamental duty and obligation that you have as a hotelier, is to provide these basic things. And you know, people will win and people will lose, and I guess that's for the people who are willing to work harder to provide that service and those clean rooms and a nice experience for their guests.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so you do a lot of consulting now, you know, go to a lot of other hotels and spread your message. What have you found to be the biggest challenge when it comes to kind of showing up at a property for the first time, and having these people just happen to, you have to get them to buy into what you're saying and they don't even know you? How do you accomplish that?
So this is like my favorite thing. So we'll get the so when a hotel hires me or a management company hires me, it's a full day. Like I'm there 12 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a day. And we spend a few hours in the morning with the management team, ownership. And then in the afternoon, we spend 2 hours talking to the entire team, front desk, housekeeping, breakfast. If they have a valet, I mean, everybody, maintenance, everybody's in this room, right? And how I get the point across is I share a lot of stories. It's not just like, oh yeah, be friendly, right? But like, how do you actually do it? Like we could say be friendly all day long, right? But if you don't share examples, you don't share a story. I always bring it back to pizza. Like anytime I have a meeting, I have a training, it always goes back to pizza, and it goes back to like, what do we all believe in, right? What are we all here for? What's the common goal? And really, it's the stories that I share in my trainings that kind of get people to understand like the difference between like caring and then actually caring, like really, really caring, right? It opens up people's eyes because after the end of the 2 hour session or a full day, like people come up to me like, oh my God, I learned something that I never did before, right? Nobody taught me this. So, in the hotel space, I feel like we get thrown into the job, right? We don't They say, "Oh yeah, be friendly, you should be nice," but how do you actually do it, and what are the words that you're using, and how are you explaining it? Not a lot of hotels do, and so I'm passionate about that. And so when I can share a story or a bunch of stories that have something to do with the end goal, it makes more sense and it kind of connects, and that's how you kind of get the buy-in. And then you give them tools too. So I incorporate a lot of the smart guest stuff uh, into the operations and the program and the strategy of trying to improve your service scores or build a team or just get a boost of motivation, because sometimes you just need that extra outside message. Because same thing for me. I could just talk about like hotels, and I could talk about, hey, we need to do this at my properties, or we need to do this at this location. But when it comes from the outside, people are like, oh yeah, it's not just the owners that are like barking at me, but like this is a
Sure.
universal message, right? And people feel good about it, like, oh yeah, these guys actually hired a professional to kind of teach, that is successful, to teach us something that maybe the hotel owners aren't teaching, right? I'm passionate about it.
And I think it from like an employee kind of like their viewpoint, they're seeing that the owners are investing in in them to a certain extent. And I think that alone, just having you just show up in general, shows that the owners are willing to invest money and, you know, actually trying to give them the tools they need, rather than just saying, why aren't you driving the results that we're demanding, you know, and giving them a chance, which I think ultimately that alone is a good sign that those properties will hopefully, you know, ultimately be successful in whatever they're doing, because a lot of owners are not willing to spend really any money or that kind of money to get somebody to come in and speak with their team like that.
It's
um,
expensive, but it's long term. If you're trying to build a team and you're trying to build a hotel team, especially right now, we're in the eighth inning of the economy, where we don't know if we're gonna it's just gonna drop out tomorrow or what's gonna happen, right? It might be another year or two until the economy slows down a little bit. But if you have really good service, you have really good um, a great online presence, because it kind of goes hand in hand, you're going to continue thriving compared to somebody that's not doing anything, right? Doesn't care about customer service, doesn't care about making guests feel good. And you're going to see that difference between you and the competition if you're actually doing it. Or if you're not doing it, you're going to see like, hey, why are these guys busier? I'll drive the parking lot and find out, why are these guys busier than us? It's because people care about that stuff, right? And the word of mouth is still there, right? Um, and people still read reviews. So, or people still talk to each other, and then also the review side, right? So it all goes hand in hand, man.
So, do you have any stories or examples of like whether it's people on teams that you've met or hotels that have kind of just been um, after being exposed to like what the power of genuine hospitality can do that they've turned it around? Like anything that sticks out in your mind? Any examples
Oh yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have a friend, this guy that never owned a hotel in his life. He called me 2 years ago. He said, "Listen, I'm buying a property. I need help. I don't know anything about hotels." So I kind of mentored him the last couple of years. I still talk to him every week, every couple week or two, and they didn't know anything about anything. So the GM was there for 12 years, and they didn't win a single award. And this is a big. It's probably one of the biggest management companies out there in the United States right now for hotel management, and they didn't win any awards. And our goal was to win them an award, right? So we did a couple trainings, we kept them going, and we put some processes and some strategies in place to get more review. We serve their customer service, and yeah, we had to make some changes. Like you walk into a hotel and you just see that um, the manager doesn't care, right? You've been there, you've been there, right? You've been to hotels, you're like, oh, this manager doesn't care, or this front
oh,
desk team doesn't.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's one of those stories. Like we had to replace some people. Like sometimes we have to go in and be like the bad guy in a property. And I'm happy to kind of advise hotels to do the same thing. Like you're losing money because you have this one person or this team of people that maybe shouldn't be there. Maybe they should take another position in the hotel, or maybe they should go find another career because they're not happy with and they care enough, right? Let me record this because I'm gonna post about this. But
Yeah.
not everybody should be a hotel manager, and I say that, right? The people that are working the front desk are like, oh yeah, I want to be a hotel manager one day, right? But not everybody's fit to be a hotel manager. So don't become a hotel manager just to say you're a hotel manager, right? And I'm actually writing an article about it here soon, and it's I think I wrote it down. It's 5 reasons why you should not become a hotel general manager, right? And the first thing is like you don't care enough, right? There's people that care just to a certain point, and then after that, they're like, "Oh, I don't care." And we know those people. Colin, do you know somebody like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only like people can see right through that sort of stuff. Like it's very obvious to a team. It's very obvious to a guest if somebody doesn't care. And those who do care will outshine and overpower those individuals any day of the week.
Right,
Any day of the week.
right. So that's just one thing. Like the second thing, be like, don't if you're not willing to work weekends, if you're not willing to like go that extra mile, go above and beyond, like all those things that actually matter when you're a hotel general manager. Like, are you willing to cover a shift? Are you willing to work triples? Right? Are you willing to like just hustle, hustle, hustle? Because GMs, if you're a good GM, you hustle, right? You build a team, but then when you have to, when it's the tough times, you got to get in there and actually work, right? And that's those are the two things that out of the five, and there's dozens of things why you should not be a general manager, right? Um, and I think it's powerful when you can understand, like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm not fit to be a general manager, and not everybody is, right?
Yeah, and I think like there's like people view, especially when you're coming into the hospitality industry, people view it with rose-colored glasses. It's the glamorous, like because hotels are very corporate-y kind of environments. As much as like we don't want to say that they are, to a certain extent.
Yeah,
When someone
yeah,
comes in and uh, maybe fresh out of college or they're new to the game and this is like their first like big boy or big girl job and they're at the front desk of the hotel and they see all the people in suits, general managers, director of sales, and they're like, oh, I want to be like that. Well, do you want to be like that because you want the clout, or do you want to be like that because you genuinely give a shit about the guest and about people feeling welcome and about doing right by the owners and giving the guests an experience that they can rave about. it, I mean it's I think when people stop doing things for the clout part of it and just have like an internal desire to do the right thing and to do it for an actual intrinsic reason, it's they will far outshine the people who are just doing it for the glory, I guess, or the everything that comes along with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. You know, the third thing, or the first, really, the first thing is don't become a general manager if you're not a people person. If you do not like people in general and you're an introvert, do not become a general manager. That's just like 101, right? If it's super strong when you can understand that. Oh, you know what? I'm not a people person. I can't go up to people and really get their feedback or make them feel good or really speak to them to understand like how they feel and how their stay was and all of those things to be in the public eye. That's what a general manager does. You're like a real people person, right? And that's my that's my third one.
right. Like I think being a manager, being a general manager, being a department head, whatever, it's almost like a political role more than anything. Like it becomes less and less about like, can you check somebody in? Can you manage the sellout? Can you know, relocate this guest, whatever? And it becomes more and more about, can you manage the guest expectation? Can you manage the team dynamics? Can you manage the ownership? Like how do you manage the different groups of people that you're responsible for on a daily basis? And it becomes less and less about what you know and more about how you can relate to other people and how you can your leadership qualities. And kind of along with that, Rupesh, what do you think, like, absolute necessities as far as qualities for leadership, and like what you see to be the most important and long lasting traits that a person can have to be successful in hotels?
Man, the number one thing that we talked about is caring. You have to care. Like you have to really, really, really care. Not just like, oh yeah, I care, and then you turn around and you're like, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to let it. I'm going to let that bad review go because I don't want to deal with the pain of talking to that guest or the pain of recovering them if you had to, right? Little things, but even big things like building the team. Like, do you actually care about other people, right? It's not just about yourself, but you're caring about your team, you're caring about your guests, you're caring about the property, you're caring about the owners. There's a lot of caring going on when you're the general manager or a leader at your hotel. So I always say, like, do they care? Like, some hotel owners and managers will call me like, hey, I want to get you on and I want to train you. I want to train my team and I want to kind of build the team together, boost morale. And I say, does your team care? And when I talk to the owners, I said, does your general manager actually care? And then we'll go through the process of like, what do they care about, right? But that's like number one, right? And there's like 100 things that you can talk about when you're being a successful general manager, but that biggest trait is, do they actually really care?
What does caring look like on a daily basis, especially considering, let's kind of add and be realistic about the complications and the whirlwind that comes with running a hotel. Especially when you're a general manager that doesn't have a director of operations, director of rooms, director of front office, director of housekeeping, and then all these layers of like management that you get at a big box or a full service hotel. The general manager can kind of sit on top of that. But if you're the general manager of a 95 room True by Hilton hotel in you know a college town somewhere, and you are working overnight shifts because somebody called off, or something like that,
Yeah.
how do you show that you care even when you're dealing with that whirlwind that happens all around you, and it feels like there's only two salaried managers at the hotel and you've got your back up against the wall? How do you still care? How do you keep going?
Because you have to understand when you take this position, and general managers like, oh, being the general manager is easy. No, it is not, right? It's a tough position that you have to be in when you're dealing with people not coming to work. You're going to deal with complaining guests. You have to deal with it all. Like, you just have to know this is part of your business. This is part of daily activities at the hotel. And when you can get that concept into your head, like, oh, guests are going to complain every day. We're going to have a problem almost every day. These are the issues that happen. This is part of our business. When you start thinking like, oh, everything's going to be perfect and um, that a hotel, like every hotel's perfect, or all the best running hotels are perfect, they're not. They have issues every day. And that general managers put it in their mind, like, I'm expecting it. It's coming, right? So when you have that, instead of being surprised at like problems or, oh, this person didn't show up, or this group of people didn't show up, or this guest complained, If you're surprised at that, then I think you're in the wrong position or the wrong mindset when you're thinking about that, right? When you're in the mindset of like, oh, this is part of our daily activities. This is what happens when you're in the hotel. You think differently. You run your hotel differently. You live better too, right? Because you can now understand like this is part of our deal.
And so what I'm really hearing you saying is, along with having to manage the guest expectation, the team expectation, the ownership expectation, what you really need to do is manage your own expectations and have the correct internal dialogue within yourself, and just self-awareness of realizing that, like, what else did you expect when you signed on the dotted line to become a GM of a hotel?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it's I don't know, like, I don't want to like laugh about it, but it's almost comical in a sense. Like, what else were you expecting when
right,
you decided I'm going to be a general manager?
right.
It's complaints are inevitable, problems are inevitable, changing plans. Like, I can't tell you how many times I come into work on a daily basis with like an agenda of what I want to get done, what my kind of like the big picture things I want to do, the just check the boxes off, and maybe I can get one of those things done, if that. But it usually just ends up as, something shifts on a dime, and you just have to adapt and respond to that accordingly. Um, and I guess if
Yeah,
that's not the personality that you have, it, maybe be better suited somewhere else. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just
yeah.
right people in the right places is all.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, you have to have the right mindset when you're coming into this position or if you're coming into a new property. You just have to understand as a general manager, as a leader, as anybody, even the front desk supervisor, front desk manager, anybody, even the front desk person that's working the front desk, checking people in, you have to understand there is this percentage of people that are going to complain. There is a percentage of people that you're going to might have drama with that you really should not bring drama to work, right? There's a percentage of things that are going to happen in your hotel and you have to be ready for it. You can't be surprised. If you're surprised, you're in the wrong mindset. And I definitely believe that.
Now, did you go to school, Rupesh? Did you go to college?
I went to multimedia school, so I did design, I did marketing, I did audio, I did all those. That's why you see a lot of the marketing side of my social because I love this stuff. I DJed back in high school. I had a full business.
Oh,
I
cool.
had a full like all out business where my friends were working at McDonald's. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was DJing clubs and I was doing parties and all that stuff. And I had a full business in high school, right, and through college. So I just took that into what I love. I love music and I love marketing, and so I've kind of brought that back into our business now. Or actually, it's been in our business where we're different than everybody else. We're not the average hotel. We're not. We don't want to be the same, right? And that's where my creativity comes in. So yeah, I went to a multimedia school.
And because I definitely noticed like your element of creativity in your social media and everything like that, and that kind of leads me to the question, like, okay, like, let's take this True by Hilton, for example, right? That's and obviously you have a lot of brand standards to maintain. Like, when it's something as stripped and as exposed as like a bed and a shower, like basically like your truly just your basic lodging situation. How do you be creative in that type of situation when it's not your own brand, and things of that nature? Like, how do you bring creativity into a setting that is dictated by a brand or by a corporation or by your ownership? Tell me about that.
So here's what I say: when owners and operators and general managers are like, oh, we can't do that because it's not brand standard. I agree. But there's also a percentage of my mindset where like you can't, yeah, we're gonna have everything brand standard. But like when you're giving out a business card with your name on it that says, "Hey, thank you so much for staying with us. I would love anything you need between now and 3 o'clock or between now and 11. I am here to personally take care of your stay." And you give them that business card that might say, "Hey, post a review," which is not against brand standards, right? But it's helping your business, right? So what I tell owners and managers, like, oh, they're like, well, we can't use this one thing because it's not brand standard. Well, guess what? When the QA happens once a year or twice a year, you're basically saying 365 days a year, right? You take 2 days out that you might get a QA on. What about the rest of the year where you could have made these connections and given somebody a personalized water bottle or a customized candy bar with their name on it, or made something at the front desk that kind of connected you? A simple idea. At my front desks, we have a little card that says, it's a plaque with your name on it, and every employee at my hotel has their own business card, right? Which is
Really?
powerful.
Really?
Which is housekeepers have their own business card, right? That's how you become creative. You get everybody involved in the process because that's how you're improving reviews. You're boosting morale. Like, when's the last time you've heard of a housekeeper having her own business card or his own?
Well, absolutely. Like, because when a room attendant is a room attendant, I don't want to say that they think that they're just a room attendant, but again, just like we talked about, everybody walking around in suits, the director of sales and the GM and everything like that, and they're obviously like they're looking like, oh, they're on this totally different planet, right? But it's like you give somebody a business card, that's pride, that's like ownership, it's accountability.
Creativity. This is creativity right there, right? Simple little things. I'm not saying change the entire brand. We're not saying change that true to something that's not. That's not. Stay with the standard. Stay with the kind of the brand look and feel. But these little touch points that you're making guests feel good in that interaction, that's called hospitality, right? That's where you kind of bring your creativity. Simple idea. In my lobby, in one of my properties, in my lobby, it said there's a sign that says, "Enjoyed your stay, ring the bell." And I got this idea from, I think, Arby's or a restaurant. Basically, in breakfast, people are ringing the bell. It's called social proof. It's like when your friends like something on Facebook, you like it too, right? More than nobody liking it, then nobody likes it, right? I just came up with this idea, like ring the bell. And so during breakfast, if a guest rings a bell, people in the lobby that work in the lobby or work in breakfast are clapping, woohoo, right? So that gets everybody in, like, that's small
Wow.
creativity, right? That's things that you could have done at any property. It doesn't have to be like a independent boutique hotel. You could do these simple ideas as far as, I'm not making this stuff up, right? I'm bringing an idea from outside my industry, which is a restaurant. How do I incorporate it into my hotel that improves something, right? And that's what I love. That's what I love. That's where my creativity comes in. I don't just I'm not making it up. I'm bringing like outside into, so I'm aware of when I walk into a restaurant, I walk into other businesses, I'm fully aware of all their marketing. I love that. I love how they're engaging. I love the design. I love the concept. I love that. That's how you get creative, right? You're not in your own bubble thinking, "How's my neighbor next door doing it? What are they doing at their hotel?" Bring ideas from outside the industry.
That bell, like I'm
It's
does
20
it
bucks on
not
Amazon. 20 bucks on Amazon.
does it not annoy other guests in breakfast though?
No, people love it. It's
So
like,
like if somebody rings the bell in breakfast, then the people at the front desk or the room attendant that's walking by, everybody claps like, hey, this guy's
woo, yeah,
enjoying
you
their
made
stay.
somebody feel good, right? Enjoyed your stay. Ring the bell.
That is
It's a like button.
hot.
It's,
That is
it's a like
hot.
button. It's a like button, basically, in our lobby.
I absolutely love that idea, man. That is genius. And you know what? And it's I also like appreciate the fact that you're not like taking 100% credit for it necessarily. You're like, I literally saw this and I'm just like, okay, well, we can do that too. Like, that's all it takes. And I think it's just an awareness that, you know, granted, like, I don't want to downplay you, Rupesh, but you're Rupesh Patel. You're just a regular guy, right? You're running hotels. Like, anybody can develop and train their mind to do these sort of things. Is this something that you feel like you've always had or that you've had to work at to train your mind into to being aware enough to recognize those sort of things?
I think in the last 8 years, I've been more aware. Like, I've noticed now, like, I need to understand, like, when I walk into a business, if I walk into a Blaze Pizza, understand, because they spend millions of dollars on marketing. They spend millions of dollars on research to make their, have you been to a Blaze recently?
Not recently, but there's and
Well,
last time I was at a Blaze, I was, a little drunk, but it was good. We're
well, any business, any franchise business, they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars developing their look and feel, right? Why can't you borrow something, this one little thing, and make it your own, and make it, create it into your own thing, right? Hire a graphic designer if you don't have, or anybody that's, pay them 20 bucks and be like, hey, make this look like our brand, and make it feel like it's incorporated, make it look like it's a brand standard. Basically, that's what I do.
Yeah.
right? Uh, and I love that. Like you could just it doesn't look like it's like something that we didn't make up. It looks like it's part of like just our journey in the hotel business, right? As far as like the look and feel. So
So we're not going to tell the brands or anything, but basically just do what you can to just to kind of navigate those waters of the brand standards and and basically again, just like Blaze spent millions of dollars to craft their image for what their brand is, we have to honor and respect the fact that True has spent millions of dollars into cultivating their look and their feel for their brand. Um, Nothing wrong with taking that and just being a little creative and personal with it.
yeah, we're not saying put it out. Like you don't have to have a belt. You those cards, they're not sitting at the front desk. They're in your pocket, right? I never say go put a card out there and ask for a review. I say, Mr. Smith, if you really enjoyed your stay with us, and you really and guess what? We have guests that stay with us every week. The same guests that stay with us every week, right? Why aren't we getting something out of them? They love you. Get
Yeah,
a review out of them, right? And that's like the easiest win. Like that's like a simple win that you can take right now to the bank where you have these loyal guests. They love you. They stay with you every week. They stay with you for a month, right? Get something out of them. Like, hey, we know that you love us. Would you mind posting a review about, and mention my name because I would love it. I would feel great about it. And maybe the ownership would understand, like, this is like a thing that's happening. And so even incentive programs, like I love incentive programs, not for a group. Like in the past, I would be like, oh, the housekeeping team did an amazing job, and we're gonna have a pizza party, right? Yeah, we still do pizza parties for the entire team or for departments, but I like to incentivize individually. Like if somebody did a great job, it wasn't the entire team that did it. Because guess what? Out of the 10 people working in housekeeping, or 20 people, or 50 people working in housekeeping, there was a percentage of people that actually cared, right? That really cared. They went
yeah,
above and beyond. Why are we incentivizing the entire team? Why are we recognizing the entire team when only 3 people out of the 10 did a good job, or 7 out of the 10 people did a good job, right? Why are we rewarding those 3 extra people that didn't do a good job? So when I do in incentive programs, especially the bigger ones, I say, hey, listen, if your name gets mentioned on a TripAdvisor review, we'll give you $10. We'll give you something. We'll give you a gift card. We'll give you points, and you can build those points up to buy something else from us, or go into this little closet and pick whatever you want, like gift cards or whatever, right? But I love that part where you're building a team, and those business cards that every employee has. Guess what? That's an opportunity for you to connect with that guest. And hey, Mr. Smith, do you know anybody else? Like, if you're part of the sales team, or everybody's a salesperson at the hotel, right? You're basically selling your
yes,
hotel.
sir.
And I've learned this a while back where I was like, what do you mean? Because they had this question in the seminar I went to, like maybe like 15 years ago, like, who sells at a hotel? Who's a salesperson at a hotel? And I raised my hand and I was like, the general manager, the DOS. They're like, nope, it's everybody, right? And I've left that in my brain, like in the back of my brain, like everybody's a salesperson. So like you can be a housekeeper or maintenance engineer and still say, Mr. Smith, thank you so much for staying with us. If I could do anything for you, here's my personal business card. Please let us know. Do you or I see here you're here with a group. Like, can we have the entire team stay with us? So there's so many opportunities for sales, right? But I love that part where you can get the entire team on board, but you have to show them. Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, um, we want to boost sales, right? And then rely on this one person. But I think the entire team can do it. So there's opportunities everywhere in the hotel.
Yeah, recently I saw something where David Burkus was saying, like, and this is something that I think you've echoed a couple times during this interview, which is, if you set your standard up here and there's somebody who's performing, at this level, um, you've got to address it, because if you say your standards is up here but you're tolerating performance at this level, what you're really saying is your standard is down here.
Yeah.
And I think goes perfectly along, like, why are we incentivizing the entire department when it's, it truly is, if there are individual performers, those people need to be recognized and cultivated to keep doing what they're doing, because eventually you get burned out if you keep doing a good job with little to no recognition.
Yeah, or you get
Or
burned out when everybody else gets recognized for your hard work, right? You're like, I did
right.
this. Like, what do you mean? I mean,
Yeah,
we.
you're like pissed, like, wait a second, I did this.
But everybody else is getting rewarded, right? I love the individual mindset of really recognizing people individually, and then yeah, groups too. But I like to call out people that are doing an amazing job because those are the people that are going to be on with you when everybody else doesn't show up to work, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Rupesh, do you have anything else you want to say? Anything that that you want to discuss before we end the interview today?
Man, I could talk about 100 things. I always have 100 things in the back of my mind, especially when it comes to like marketing, social media, engagement. Cause there's a bunch. But no, man, I really just appreciate if everybody could just connect with me on LinkedIn. My direct LinkedIn, you can find me directly at rupesh.co. That goes directly to my LinkedIn profile. Please connect with me. I share daily hospitality insights, marketing, customer service. I do a weekly live now on LinkedIn where I bring in some awesome people. We've had Anthony Melicuri on and a bunch of awesome people that that just help the industry kind of grow. And this is all free. I love LinkedIn because it's just free education that we should be. If you're in the hotel business, you need to continue learning every single day. Actually, any business, but hotels especially because things are changing rapidly. And if you're not learning like the latest technology or these latest ideas or these free ideas that I'm sharing, you're missing out on these opportunities, especially now where, when things are just going to slow down or make some changes. I think it's a great opportunity for you to continue learning and take those back to your team. Just don't learn it for yourself, but share it with your team and see if they can help improve what you're doing there. Right.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us. We've really enjoyed having a conversation with you today. And to everybody listening, you've been watching Hospitality MD. Again, I'm Kyle. Rupesh has been joining me. Myself, Chris, and Greg's information is all in the description. Definitely follow us on LinkedIn and find Hospitality MD wherever you get your podcast services. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.